back to the club. We're your hosts. I'm Akila Friends.
And I'm Ebony Chapman.
And today, y'all, we are joined by the fabulous and so accomplished costume designer and stylist, Ebony Brown, as you can see on our screen, whose work includes Camilla Cabello, Sanaa Lathan, Paper Magazine, Nike. The list truly goes on and on and on. And we're going to touch on what we can, okay? But in the meantime, let's welcome Ebony Brown. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you, ladies. I'm so thrilled to be here. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me, for sure. Let's get into it.
We're so happy to have you.
It's going to be a great conversation. And I feel like this is the epitome of a conversation to just wrap up the month of fashion. That is September.
Yes.
We saw that, for instance, New York City Fashion Week happened, the Met Gala. Mm-hmm. I mean, every day is a fashion moment, but these were some of the iconic moments of the month. And we just want to get your take on it. Like, what did you think about the fashions this month?
And it was a bit overwhelming because typically the Met Gala happens in May, but due to the pandemic, they postponed it to September. So everything fell in that 1 week as far as New York Fashion Week, the VMAs, and then Met Gala. It was literally all in the same week. So there was fashion everywhere, all over the place. Some of it amazing, some of it not so much. Fashion Week, I really enjoyed because I think that they did a really great job of including Black, brown designers, underrepresented designers. And it felt like a natural sort of like invitation to understand that we belong in these spaces. It really felt like they made space for us versus a performative act of just plopping in the Black designer here or there. I mean, they really showcased it. So that felt really good. I really appreciated that. The one thing I can say that they are still lacking in as far as inclusion is concerned, they didn't have enough, for me, normal size models on the runway. And if we're being honest, the American woman, the average size for an American woman is size 14. So anything below that is not really normal or attainable or average, right? But you see on the runway, we had a scenario where we had rail thin models who were size 0. We've gone away from that, but it kind of just felt like they plopped maybe a size 10 person in the runway and they just felt like they've met their quota. So I think we can definitely have more representation where that's concerned, but the shows were great. Everything was amazing. And I really had a good time. Now Met Gala, that's a completely different conversation. That is a different conversation because I was very disappointed. I mean, you know what? Fashionistas like myself, we're always disappointed sometimes with the Met Gala because for the most part, no one really follows the theme. There's a theme every single year and some people follow it, some people don't. But this year was really, really disappointing because the theme was to celebrate American designers, American fashion. And 90% of the people at the Met Gala were European fashion houses. And to me, that just didn't make any sense. I mean, well, it made no sense except it does make sense because, you know, we value others more than we value ourselves, more than we value our own. We could literally start a complete movement. And if someone else who is of a different, let me just be politically correct and say different, we seem to value that more than we value our own. So we have American fashion designers who are amazing. Why didn't we use them more? Why didn't we use, and I'm not even saying that this needed to be a moment where we forced Black designers onto the Met Gala carpet, but it was an opportunity that I really believe was missed. So yeah, I wasn't too happy about that. And I don't think very many people were. So that's all I have to say about the Met.
I think it's there was a lot. There's a lot there. Yeah, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back to just like Fashion Week. Yes, because like we talked about it, but like let's really like talk about it. Let's really talk about it. So you went to Fashion Week in New York, and so it sounds like you went to a lot of the different designers. You went to different houses. Like, can you tell us more about that experience? Since you know it was COVID, was there any restrictions or any things that were different than past years?
It was very different. The main difference was you had to be vaccinated to get into anything and everything. And they weren't going with, you couldn't have a fake card. You had to have your ID match your vaccination card. What they say, most of the people have, I don't, you know what, that's a whole nother conversation. I don't even want to get into the whole fake vaccination cards and all that, because I don't really have very strong opinions on it one way or the other. My whole thought process about it is, if there is another agenda, it has nothing to do with me. It may have something to do with me, but I'm not going to let it stop my life, right? So that was very interesting, because a lot of my friends, some of my friends I invited to come to the shows with me from New York couldn't get in because they weren't vaccinated. Another big difference is that everything was sort of held in one building, whereas before it was in different areas. You know, they kind of had it at Bryant Park, and you'd go from show to show in different areas in New York, but sort of maybe in the same bubble. But this time it was really in one building, which was kind of great. So they had a combination of, in this part of the building, they had runway shows in this room. On the roof, they also had runway shows. Over in this area, they had different panels and speaking scenarios, which were amazing. Over here, they had gifting suites. Then they had a huge restaurant. Champagne was flowing from 9 a.m. till 10 p.m. It was beautiful. It was really lovely. And then on the 5th floor, because everything pretty much took place on the 6th floor, but on the 5th floor, Black and Fashion Council had the whole floor, and they showcased Black designers. And that part really touched me, because there was a full floor of just showrooms for Black designers, and I thought that was amazing.
That's great.
The representation was there in some capacity. I think it's so interesting, because I mean, I think some of the fun of Fashion Week is being able to rush around the city. And
It is, but it's too much. It's too hard to bounce around like that. It is too hard. And also, listen, another problem for myself personally, I haven't really worn heels since pre-pandemic, right?
I was just about to say, Ebony, I was like, wait a second. The heels, you were probably thankful that it was in one building for the feet alone.
I was thankful, because we went to one show. Okay, so one night, it was not in that building. Tiana Taylor's show with, Pretty Little Things. It was not in that building. It was in a completely different building. It was amazing. So much fun. The whole thing was designed to look like the New York subway. Beautiful. Wow. Loved it. But then right after that, Laquan Smith was in the Empire State Building. And although it was only a 6-minute walk, I could not do it. I could not. Now, I used to be able to run around New York City in heels, but I wore them all the time. And I realized I really have to get myself back trained, because this is it's not acceptable to wear flats. It's just not. But I am excited at the fact that sneakers are very much in style. You know, and you can wear your sneakers with a ball gown, dress. You've always been able to do that, but I feel like now the rest of the world is sort of accepting that look and not looking at it like it was crazy. Do you guys remember when Kristen Stewart would show up on the runway all the time with whatever ball gown and like dirty chucks?
Yes.
Fabulous. She like that, her right there. Love her style. Like, literally, I'm wearing my Converse. I don't care what you say, and they're not clean. You're gonna love me for it. I just love the fact that the rest of the world is catching up to that. So you can wear your sneakers, but you know, I'm a heel girl. I love a good pair of heels. But walking around New York City, no. Ebony, to your point, no. I'm glad it was in one building. All the champagne, you couldn't do all that walking around. And also, it's very hard to catch a cab now.
Yes.
It is very, very hard to catch a cab. And then Uber is double the price.
Yes.
In New York, it's double the price. So if a cab will cost you $6, your Uber is going to cost you $20. It's just pathetic. But I love a subway. I'll just get on the subway real quick.
Yes, of course. Well, let's talk a little bit more about your fashion journey, because it was even a journey for you to even step into the realm of doing fashion for yourself full time. You, as you mentioned in previous interviews and things of the like, you were in songwriting. That's how you started your career. So I'm just so curious, how did you, one, get into songwriting, and two, transition that to say, no, fashion is actually my calling?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. Fun fact, I've actually been a published writer since I was 5 years old. So writing for me just came very naturally. And, when I was 5 years old, I mean, not five, in kindergarten. Yeah. No, that was 6 years old. There was a statewide contest in Michigan for poetry, and I won, and the winner was able to be published in a book. So I was a published writer at 6 years old. Kind of amazing, kind of crazy when you say it out loud. Exactly. So I've always known I wanted to be a songwriter since forever. I mean, when I was a kid, I would literally create music groups, singing groups. I thought I was a baby pussy girl. I would make up the dance routines, write all the songs, tell people which part they were going to sing, everything. I wrote songs about homework, school, whatever you could think about. So when I graduated high school, I wanted to move straight to New York. My mother was not having it. She's like, I'm not sending my 18-year-old baby to New York by herself. I'm just not doing it. So we made a deal. You go to college. Then after college, you can do whatever you want. So I went to Louisiana to go to Southern University, where I pledged AKA. Hey, sir. And after that, I moved straight to New York. There was just no way around it. I moved straight to New York. And how I got into it was, so it's a combination of manifesting an alignment and then putting in the work to follow it up, right? So because I wanted to be a writer so bad, I saw myself and my life as a writer. I didn't see myself or my life as anything other than that. I will visualize myself in the studio. I visualize myself doing any and everything. And so when I moved to New York, I ended up living in an area in New Jersey, Teaneck, New Jersey, where all musicians live. Now, I didn't know that beforehand, but that's the power of manifestation, setting intention. It's huge, right? When you really put it out, what you put out into the universe is what you get back. And there's just no way around that. So I kept putting it out in the universe. I ended up living in the area. So now I'm at the grocery store with musicians. I'm just meeting them very organically. And then that led to me now going into the studio with different people. I would go to parties every night, and I had a full-time job at Enterprise Rental Car. And my boss was so great. He let me leave early whenever I needed to go to the studio. He knew I would come in late. Oh, girl, I don't know how I kept that job. I lived across the street from the place and would still not show up for work. And he'd have to call my phone, like, you're supposed to work today. I'm like, okay, I'll be there. Give me a second. But I was just in the studio all night. So, priorities. I needed to pay my bills, but I needed to be in the studio.
Right.
So that's pretty much how I got into it. I went to the parties every night. I figured out who I wanted to talk to, and I was relentless. I'm not shy when it comes to walking up and approaching and introducing myself. There is a way to do it where it's not cringy, because the thing with celebrities, musicians, any of that, they don't want fans around them all the time. They love their fans, don't get me wrong. But in their immediate circle, they can't have fans around them because they're saying intimate things. They're saying and talking about things that they don't want to get out to the press. So they need to know that they can trust whoever's in their inner circle. So what it means is that when you approach someone who's a celebrity or someone in that position, you kind of have to look at it like we're the same. You cannot approach it with sort of a fangirl mentality, because they won't necessarily view it as the same, and then they're going to be guarded. So that was one of the tricks that I kind of carried with me. I always approached them as if we were the same. I kind of lived my life as if I was already a writer. I was already established. I had no songs out, girl, but you couldn't tell me that. You couldn't tell me a thing. And so that's how I became a songwriter. Now, I had a couple of songs published early on, nothing major, nothing that really made a difference. But the most, I would say, accomplishment as far as my songwriting goes is the writing that I did with Faith Evans. And that goes back to how it came to be, right? So first of all, Faith is my hands down favorite singer, songwriter in the world, period. It's been like that since forever. From the first time she came out, I literally know every single I can hear a note that she would hit and I immediately start crying because I know how difficult that note was and how like the range, it's just like it hits me, right? So this was way before I knew her. I was just like, I need to work with her. I need to meet her. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. So back when record stores were around, she had, I think it was for her third album, she had a signing, an album signing, right, at Virgin Record Store in the middle of Times Square. I stood online for 2 hours to meet her, to get her to sign my CD. And not only that, I had typed up lyrics to some songs that I had written. I didn't record it. There was no music. I literally just typed them up on a sheet of paper and had them in an envelope. And when I got up there after 2 hours, I handed her the envelope and I was like, I'm a songwriter. I would really love it if we could work together one day. You know, if you would read my lyrics. And she was like, yes, absolutely. Super sweet. I gave her that envelope. I walked away. Nothing really ever happened with it. But you see, again, I'm setting my intentions. The universe is hearing me and I'm literally manifesting what's to come. So maybe a few years later, I'm friends with another singer who was in the studio with her at the time. And she knew, I was obsessed. My obsession for Faith Evans was very real. So I knew that I needed to work with her. So she was in the studio and she called me to the studio. And when I walked in, I guess she had already told Faith that, oh, my friend Ebony is coming to the studio. So when I walked in the studio, she was like, Ebony. Let me tell you, my heart dropped because I was just not, when you put something in the universe and then, when you have that moment when everything you've been praying for is actually coming to fruition, it's surreal, right? So that was our first meeting. Nothing happened from that either. Fast forward, I'm living in LA. Again, setting that intention. We end up with the same hairdresser. Now that's the most intimate place you can be, at the hair salon. The hair salon. So that became the start of the relationship. Now I'm in the studio and I'm working, but it all started from that 2-hour wait to hand her lyrics that I had typed up. I mean, to go from that to actually having songs with her, also a huge accomplishment. Now, when I did, I'm going back and forth a little bit, but just this part is really interesting. When I left music and went into fashion, I felt accomplished because I had worked with my dream person. So to me, it didn't matter. I didn't need to have a full, discography. It didn't matter to me. But the gifts keep on giving because just in 2020, the Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, inducted Notorious B.I.G., if you guys remember. And what I didn't realize, and this happens a lot when you write with people, and when a person has passed on, especially, their loved ones will add them for producing credits or songwriting credits on the song. So their estate can constantly get money, right? And residuals. So that's what happened on the songs, some of the songs that I had written with Faith Evans. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame contacted me to let me know that my work was going to be displayed because of the writing that I had done with Notorious B.I.G. And I literally almost passed out. I called Faith. I was like, wait, what? What is going on? It was crazy. I mean, sometimes I'm so blessed. I feel not even accomplished. I am accomplished, but more than that, I just feel so honored that I get to live this life because I'm from Detroit and it was not easy in Detroit. I'm from rough Detroit, not hipster Detroit. Back when it was the worst, zip code in the United States as far as like killing was concerned. I grew up around crackheads and drug dealers and just that rough. And the fact that I came through all of that and made it out and went to New York and was successful, came to LA and was successful, it's all surreal. It really is. And I feel just super, super humbled by it all when I think about it, honestly.
It's incredible, to be honest. And like, I think the story of like you said, the power of manifestation, setting intention and just seeing it through. Yeah. It's so clear in your experience with Faith and what happened.
And also not you slipping in the fact that you called Faith Evans. Like I heard that. Right. You're like, I called Faith. I said, oh wait, see, now we have phone numbers. We're super in contact. It wasn't just, I love that.
We were just out last night at a friend's birthday party. The same hairdresser. It was her birthday party last night. We had a ball. I mean, listen, I don't even know how I look. We had a ball. I'm glad I pulled it together.
You look great.
You look amazing. Can you even share with us the songs that you put your pin to for Faith Evans?
One is called. How about I don't remember? No. One is called. There was two. It was two songs on that particular album, and one is called Struggle, and one is called Party. So those are the two, and the one that made it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was the one called Struggle. And it was Raekwon was rapping on it. It was and I was going through an interesting time because at that time my mother was going through some things, and so the lyrics that I wrote were literally about my mom. So it was just a full circle moment.
Love that.
Better shoot your shot every time you get a shot, okay? Period.
What happened?
Yes, shoot it. You never know.
I was gonna say, like, did you ever tell the story to Faith? Like, hey, do you remember that?
I did, but it was probably about because she was also my first styling client. So I'll get into how that transition happened, but probably about 5 years in, I told her because I just didn't want to sound like a weirdo. And she was just so like, wow. Whenever I tell someone that story, they're like, are you serious? Like, that's crazy how that worked out. That is crazy. So yeah, no, it was great when I finally told her the story.
Love that. Love that. So you mentioned Stylist. Let's jump into that too. Like, so obviously you achieved great feats as a songwriter, and then you transitioned into becoming a stylist. One, what was that switch like? What made you, I don't know if there was a specific moment that happened or just life as it goes, but what made you decide to say, no, I'm going to go full throttle in this? And how was that first year?
Yeah, honestly, it wasn't me. It was God. It was literally God called me to it, because when I was in the studio with different artists, the record execs would always ask me to style them. And I would say no. I would say, I am a songwriter. I am not a stylist. I mean, I know I look fly. I know I'm showing up in the studio right, but I know this is me. This is how I do me, and I'm not doing it to anybody else. I'm not giving it to anyone else. I was like, no. So I literally turned it down for 3 years. That's how long it finally took for me to say, okay, wait a minute. I must be blocking my blessings. I'm standing in the way of something that, we can make plans, but God's plans are much bigger than whatever we can even imagine. And I think what really kind of brought it all together for me was I was working with Fantasia Barrino, American Idol, and I was on the road with her. Again, record execs kept asking me to style her, and I kept saying no. Well, she had to do an interview with Oprah, and the stylist at the time brought amazing pieces, but nothing that was really right for Fantasia. And that's when I realized I understood not just bringing pieces that look great or that are in style. What it means to be a stylist is understanding body type, understanding how a certain fabric is going to lay across a woman with curves versus a woman without curves, whether it's the right size or not, how it's going to look flattering. All of these things are so very, very important. What kind of fabric you need when you're sitting down in an interview? How's it going to crease in the middle when you're sitting? All of that stuff played a part. So although everything the stylist brought was amazing, I knew it just wouldn't work. So I was actually in a hotel in New York, about to get my hair done, because we were flying to Chicago the very next morning. My hairstylist had come. Now, I'd already moved to LA at this point, but I was still going back and forth, and I had a lot of friends in New York. So my hairstylist did me a solid, came to the hotel, was about to do my hair. And once this whole thing happened with the stylist, I just looked at her and she looked at me and I was like, take me to Neiman. I need to go to Neiman Marcus right now. So she drove me to New Jersey because the Neiman Marcus is in actually New Jersey, not in Manhattan. She drove me to New Jersey. I used my own personal Neiman card, bought everything. I mean, we had 30 minutes to shop before the store closed. So I'm literally just like, boom, 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 boom. Like, and so what it's called is a pull, right? That's how a stylist does a pull. That's what it's called. I didn't know that at the time. At the time, I was just, I have 30 minutes and I better get everything that works. So you can't really put a full look together in that time. You just have to get pieces that you know could work in a scenario. And you get your shoes, you get it all. And then when you get back, you set up your rack and then you organize and put looks together. I didn't realize I was doing it at the time. I just thought I was grabbing and going. So as it turns out, she wore, because I did present to her what the stylist brought just so she can see the items, but she ended up choosing the items that I had purchased, not knowing that I had done that. Because it wasn't my job to do that. I wasn't a stylist, but my job, I was her road manager. So my job was to make sure everything went well on the road. And so if something is wrong, I had to fix it by any means necessary. And even if that meant using my own credit card and get reimbursed by the management later, I had to take care of it. So I never told her that I had done it. I just wanted her to look amazing on TV. So that to me was the turning point when I was just like, okay, you know what? I think I understand this a lot more than I thought I did. It really comes natural for me. And I think I might say yes. And then another very interesting thing was this wasn't so great, but it happened. But it was validation for me. So we were in a meeting with her management and her record label, and we were talking about going over looks for the Grammys. Her stylist at the time was there, and they had some amazing items, right? But then the record exec, okay, so they had some amazing items, but everyone was leaning toward the piece that I didn't like the most. Now, I kept my mouth shut because it was not my thing and that was not my job. I stay in my lane. But I'm just looking and I'm like, oh, this is not going to work. I'm thinking to myself, it's not going to work when you put that energy out there. So next thing you know, the record exec goes, you know what? The only person in this room who has actual style is Ebony. And that's the only person I want to hear from. I gave my honest opinion and I was fired not too long after.
Stop.
You're not supposed to go against what the management has. You're supposed to side with them. But I couldn't. It just my heart, you know what, listen, I don't work that way. I couldn't do it. I had to say, well, you know what? This is the dress that she should wear, not the one that everybody is talking about. And that look, me and her management, we're ready. She's my big sister. She's like an amazing person. I love her to death. She gave me a look and I was like, but the purple one looks great too. Anyway, needless to say, that job didn't last long. But it made me realize I needed to actually become a stylist. So now here is.
Wait, I'm dying. Not him asking for your opinion
and then not taking it fully or taking it in the moment.
Oh, no, they took it. No, they took it. The management didn't ask for my opinion. The stylist didn't ask for my opinion. The record label asked for my opinion. And he wanted my opinion to trump their opinion.
Politics. Got it.
And that was the problem. So if I wanted to keep my job, I would have sided with them. And I would have said, yes, the purple dress is the dress for her. But that was not how I felt. I said, no, I think she should go with this one. Although no one picked that dress. It was interesting to me. The rack full of dresses and no one picked the one that I thought was the best. They all kind of went with the other one. And so, yeah, so me saying that I wanted something or I felt that she should wear something different was me going against my team, really, because I was a part of the management team. And I gave a different answer from the management team. And so I needed to go. It was the right choice.
But yeah, literally it worked out in the best in your favor. But I think that's such great insight too, to know in terms of like how things really work, and the politics of it all. Any industry, but definitely music.
Absolutely. Listen, at the end of the day, when you have a team, you need to, now this is another tip on hiring your team and getting your team together. Your team has to stick by you no matter what, right or wrong. And I didn't do that. I also didn't realize that I was supposed to. I was too young to kind of understand what it all meant. I just thought, I'll give my opinion. Yeah, no, girl, keep your mouth shut. But it definitely worked out in my favor, for sure.
That kind of leads into just, I guess, yes, it worked out in your favor. You went into styling full time and knew that this is what you really needed to do. So for now, 15 plus years later, knowing what you know now, for someone who wants to start their career in costume design and styling, what would some things that they should have in their toolkit, so to speak?
Yeah. One more thing about my transition. So when I finally decided, after 3 years of turning it down, after that whole epiphany with Fantasia, this is just a little light flex. I just called Faith Evans and was like, I'm styling now. Can I be your stylist? And she's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was my first stylist. That was my first client, and it lasted for 8 years. Yeah, it was exclusively for 8 years. Now, there was also a huge lesson with that. And it was when you have, this is what I had to learn. I had to learn everything on the go because I didn't start off assisting, which is what I would tell any and everyone who wants to become a stylist. Start off assisting because there's so many things that you just don't know as far as how the business works. You might know how to put an outfit together, how to put a look together, but there's so much more to it than that. And with Faith, there's also, when you have one client and you're exclusive with that one client and you're not really networking or reaching out to other people, and with musicians, when they don't have an album, they typically don't work. They're kind of just in the house, work or in the studio or doing whatever it is. I kind of found myself back to square one, damn, okay, I didn't really reach out to enough people, make enough fashion contacts to just bounce from her to client to client to client to client. So what I did is quite interesting, which a lot of people don't know, and a lot of people were actually shocked whenever I did mention that I did this, is I started assisting for big stylists, but just a little bit, because I just said, you know what, I was winging it the whole time. It was my first client and it worked. I mean, I worked with designers, did custom gowns. Whenever she did the Grammys or anything big, everything was custom. And I'm working with the designers and designing it. And that was sort of my first entry into design. But yeah, I learned a lot along the way, but I just felt like there wasn't enough that I knew. And I'm an information, listen, I love information. I read, study all the time, everything. So I just felt the best way for me to learn this business was to learn from people who were actually doing it. And it really helped. It really, really helped. So what I would say to aspiring stylists, what you need to have in your toolkit, really to make it in this world, is do your research, look at it and treat it as if you would if you were going to school for something. Just because you know how to go to Saks and shop does not mean you are a stylist. And I think that people really get that confused. Going to Rodeo, going to Fifth Avenue, going to Gucci, Louis Vuitton does not make you a stylist. I'm sorry. I don't care how cute the outfit looks. It does not make you a stylist. There's so much more. So you really have to do the research, study from other stylists, understand what the intricacies of it means, different fabrications, how they lay on the body types. Here's a tip that I give people that is a tip that a lot of people don't know. I was styling a client who wasn't a thin person, really cute shape. And so she would always wear boxy shirts because her stomach was a little more rounder than she wanted to be at the time. So she felt the best way to do it was to wear a pair of skinny jeans or what have you, and have a shirt that kind of was a little bit more flowy. And I told her, I want you to put on a camisole, tuck it in, put a belt on, and then put a blazer on top. And she fought me. I was like, girl, just go ahead and fight me, but do what I said and see what it looks like. It took 10 pounds off of her immediately. 10 pounds gone, because now you're giving yourself a silhouette. You know, things like that are some things that people don't really quite understand, which is why some stylists actually, if you notice, they won't even work with or style women who are over a size 2, because they don't necessarily know how to work with that body type. So for anybody who wants to do this, understand all body types. If you choose not to do that, then that's fine. Then, you know, pick a niche as far as what you want to do. But just study, which leads me into my online courses that I will be launching in January for this very reason. I really want aspiring stylists to have all the tools that they need to understand that this is a business. This is not a game, and it's not for fun. Yes, there are parts of it that can be very glamorous, the travel, the celebrity access, the parties, all of that, the freebies, the swag. It's all glamorous. But if you don't have passion for it, you are going to get burned out very quickly working 20-hour days. A music video is like 20 hours with no break. You will not have fun if you're not passionate about it. The glamour goes out the window when your feet start hurting and you're running around sweating. People think as a stylist, I'm walking around in designer clothes when I'm at work and all this. Wrong. I only wear that when I'm not. I may have, you know, I mean, listen, I'm going to wear designer, but it's not going to be, you know, you're not walking around dolled up because you're really running. You're moving around. You're on your knees, like pinning, fastening shoes. Like you're really working. It's grueling, and you're carrying around wardrobe racks full of wardrobe. You're picking things up, steamers. It can have a lot of wear and tear on your body. So a lot of people get into it and they get out of it very quickly because they don't realize how much work it actually is. So I would say understand that it's work and it's not just for fun, although it can be glamorous. Study, learn, take my course. Take
the course. So that also leads into just kind of like, okay, being in the fashion space, you didn't go to fashion school. There was no like formal training. In fact, you said that, you know, music was the first passion. That was your love, your first love, until we kind of, you know, your fashion was apparently just too on fleek that people were just like, they're not leaving you alone about dressing.
Yeah.
So how exactly, you know, I watch shows like What Not to Wear, or, you know, those types of like, I think there was something.
I love those.
Yeah, there was something on Style with Jeannie Mai. I think it was called like Stylish or something. I can't really
yeah, I loved her show. I was a fan of Jeannie Mai from that before she even made it to The Real. I watched that show religiously. I can't remember the title, but yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it too. And her with the blue hair, like I just remember her. Yes, I used to watch it all the time. So I guess how do you kind of, where are you finding your resources or your training? I know, you know, people probably like YouTube University, but to know, or maybe it was just on natural, right? But like, how do you get to know
there isn't much,
and dressing different body types and figuring out fabrics and colors that would work on skin tones and all that?
Trial and error for me. Trial and error. There wasn't a lot of resources, which is why I am creating the resources for other aspiring stylists, because you can save someone a lot of time and a lot of mistakes if they kind of have the information beforehand. It wasn't a lot back then. There wasn't a lot going on, so you kind of had to just figure it out. You could Google things, you can maybe go on YouTube, but it really, you know, you just had to get into the field. For clients, for example, like if we're going back to Faith, she changes her hair color all the time. So if there was an event coming up, I had to make sure I knew what hair color she was going to have before I pulled the clothes. Because if she's going to have red hair, I'm not putting her in a red dress. You need, you know, and plus her skin is very pale. So certain colors don't work on her because of her skin tone, you know, and then also the undertones of the skin. Like my undertones are red. I'm brown, but my undertones are very red. So certain colors look better on me. If you have an undertone that's olive, like with, you know, a lot of Italian women, a lot of lighter women, they have more of an olive undertone to their skin. certain things look better on them. You check, you pay attention to the eye color, all of it. Like if a woman has blue eyes, a gorgeous blue anything is going to really, really pop. Like it just makes a statement. You just kind of have to pay attention to all these things. But again, I just had to figure it out on my own. It was all on trial and error.
Yeah, what I hear is love. That's what I hear. I kind of hear it like a chef, you know, when they're making food or, you know,
yes.
You can, when you're eating something, you can tell like, was this made with love or not? Because it sounds right. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like styling kind of is that same space where you're like, you got to put love into it and you'll get the best results. Otherwise, it's just kind of like throwing paint on the wall.
Absolutely. And if you don't love it, there's no way you can sit on set for 20 hours. There's just no way. You have to love it. When you're tired and you have to get back up the very next day, you got to schlep around the city doing returns and pulls. It is a lot of work because that's how it starts off in the beginning until you have other people doing that stuff for you. But in the beginning, you're doing all that on your own. And it is not easy. And you have to, it has to be a passion. There's no other way around it. It just won't work if it's not.
That's great. And yeah, you're pointing out all the intricacies of this business that honestly, like,
but that's what
you wouldn't think about.
Right?
It's like, yeah, like the pulls, the returns of it all, the contracts. I'm just curious.
Let me tell you guys.
We're going to have to talk about
those
that
stores
too.
probably hated you. They see you, they'd be like, run.
No. Actually, you can't do, the stores won't let you, they clock you. They know you're a stylist. They won't let you come and do that. You cannot go and buy and return from these stores. You have to do what's called a studio pull. And what that means is, so let's just say it's Nordstrom. I do pulls from Nordstrom a lot. I'm actually about to do a huge commercial coming up, so I'm going to go there. Basically, what that means is they have my credit card on file. They let me come in and I can pull anything I want, no matter how much money it comes out to, but I have to keep 20% of it. That is how they do it now. So they're not trying to have all this, you spend 10 grand and then you return 9,500 of it the next day. They're not letting you get away with that. Now,
you keep some of the clothes then if you're, only if you have to keep 20% of it.
The clothes aren't for me when they're for jobs, but yes, they're for jobs. So I have to keep 20% of the clothing that I've pulled. So even if I don't use all of it, I still have to keep 20% of it. So
where does it go?
Where does it go? It goes to storage if we don't use it.
Oh, wow.
The production usually keeps it. So this is how it kind of works. So I go and pull the clothes. Let's just say I've got 5 racks full of clothing. I've kept my 20% keep, which will amount to maybe 1 full rack, if give or take. For that particular job, if I've only used a half rack of clothing and we still have a half rack available, the production will keep it. And most of the time they go through it and take what they want. Sometimes they'll let me keep it because they don't feel like dealing with it. So have you ever heard of a styling say that they have their own personal kit?
No.
So it's not necessarily, so we have a kit bag where everything's, you got your double stick tape, you got your pens, you got your everything. That's your kit bag. But every stylist has their own personal kit with just wardrobe that never made it to set, that production didn't want to deal with, that we have at all times. So I would have a garage full of stuff at any given time. I mean, I had to set up shelves for shoes, everything, and I keep it super organized. And then every year you have to go through it.
Shopping at your garage, okay? That we're coming to shop in your garage.
Yeah.
Happening.
Yeah, and if you follow a lot of stylists, they're always having sales, yard sales, for that reason. Because every so often you have to get rid of it.
Put us on, Ebony.
I love that.
Put us on. We're about to be following all the stylists.
You can get some good pieces too from a stylist garage sale. You will get amazing stuff. I literally, to this day, still have in my closet, I think, a lot of the gowns that people have worn to Grammys. I still have them.
Oh my goodness. Okay, just tell us when and where, girl. We are ready.
Yeah, because I guess, why do I have them? They don't necessarily need them anymore. The designer doesn't want them back. So I'm just like, they'll stay here in my storage.
That's amazing. I'm curious too, if this, because I know as we introduced you, you're a stylist, but you're also a costume designer, still in that same, but I'm curious if there's any difference in when it comes to that kit that you would need as a costume designer versus a stylist? Any major differences when it comes to what someone would need if they're going the costume designing track versus stylist?
Yes, so they are very different jobs. I will start by saying that. And it's interesting because the costume design world they kind of frown upon stylists who become costume designers. And I understand why now that I do it. And it's because a lot of stylists approach a costume design job the same way they'd approach a styling job. So here's the major difference. When you're styling someone, especially if you come from celebrity styling, you are styling a person for who they are and how they want to present themselves to the world. You're staying on trend with fashion. They're having the most designer things, everything carte blanche, amazing, right? You're spending money is usually no object as well when you're styling a celebrity. Now, when you are doing costume design, you are dressing the character, not the celebrity. Now, even if you have an actor who's acting in the role, they could be famous, they could be a huge name. I don't care who it is. You are not dressing that person. You're dressing them as the character that they're portraying. And when you think about characters and how you break that down is, for example, what mood are they in? Are they happy? Are they sad? Have they just broken up? Did they just get a new job? What energy are they trying to reflect? If they're sad, they're not going to wear yellow. They won't wear happy colors. They're going to probably be in grays or muted tones. You have to understand color theory. When someone is sort of like having a baby or something like that, you want to give colors that represent fertility, like green, right? If someone has just gotten a job and they're excited, you kind of want to dress them in a way, when you get a new job or you're about to go to school for the first day, you lay your whole outfit out on the bed, you kind of want to give them that energy. So it's very different from styling. And how I got into it was very interesting. So the movie Dope was my very first movie that I ever worked on, first time ever stepping foot on a movie set. And I had to beg for the job as an intern, is how I started, right? I was already an accomplished stylist. I had already had Faith, Kanye, people just under my belt that I had already worked with, J-Lo, everybody.
If you don't mind, do you mind like sharing just like the age in which you started being like the intern so people can understand like?
I was grown as hell. I was grown as hell because I had probably already been styling for about 5 years. And I had already styled at the top of styling. So people don't typically go backward, but see, I'm not cut like that. My humility is different. I don't look at it as going backwards. I look at it as you take one step back, take 2 steps forward. I knew that if I didn't get on a movie set, I wouldn't know how it worked. So it didn't matter to me how much I had done outside of that. And I had to beg for the job because the person who was hiring didn't want to hire me because she saw my resume and she's like, why would you want to do this? It doesn't pay. And I was just told her, I said, listen, I have never in my life stepped foot on a movie set. I don't know what it means. I know what styling means, but I know that is very different. And what really motivated me to do it is because when I was styling, a lot of stylists that I would speak to who are our color, Black, I would ask them about costume design. And every single time they said, oh, no. The white women have it on lock. They've been doing it forever. It's hard to get in. You have to be in the union. It takes years to get in the union. It's hard to get. Everything was a negative. And it just dawned on me that all of these amazing stylists viewed that as something impossible to do. But there's so much money on that world. So why would you not even try? They took it to the point where they didn't even try. So at that point for me, if you tell me no, that something cannot happen, that's only going to motivate me even more. I did whatever I needed to do to figure out how to get on a movie set. I saw this position that came up for the movie Dope, and I was like, okay, this is no one knew at the time how big the movie was going to be, or that it was going to be like a cult classic. No one knew that. But I did know that it was produced by Pharrell and all these people. And I'm like, okay, this seems like a great way. How do I get this job? So I had to beg for the job because she felt like I was way overqualified. And I was like, yes, as a stylist, but not as a costume designer or anything about that. So when I took that job, I learned everything. So when you're on movie sets, there's a thing called the wardrobe truck. And that's sort of where everything functions. That's sort of like the office. All the wardrobe is housed there. You know, all the accounting is done in that truck, in that trailer. The costume designer is in there. The costumers are who are the people who actually get the talent dressed. Then you've got PAs and you've got interns, right? So when I tell you, I learned every job, every position on that set, every job from I understood now. And then because this movie was about 90s fashion, the costume designer took a liking to me, and I was sort of like with him a lot, shopping with him, sourcing amazing like vintage cross-color pieces that were used in a movie. So that was very exciting. So even though I started as an intern, I really had an impact because I was given the freedom to say, hey, you know what? The designer looked at me and said, I know that you can help me. Let's make this really amazing. And he was an amazing designer. So it really worked out, the two of us together. And him giving me that freedom was amazing. He allowed me to go on set, which I technically wasn't supposed to. He allowed me to really just learn everything. So I learned how to go on set. I learned how to do costuming, which is dressing the talent. I learned how to do the most complicated job there is, which is continuity. And this is what continuity is. And this is why a lot of times costume designers that came from styling might overlook this and might not get this right. With movies, they may shoot a scene today, and then they may shoot that same exact scene a week from now. Now, you have to realize and remember, as a costume designer, if they had a collar on, was it flipped up? Was it turned down? Were the sleeves pushed up? To what part of the arm was the sleeve? You have to get that exactly right. So what you have to do is when the actors are on set, you have to take very detailed pictures of every earring, everything that they have on, even down to the way the shoes are tied. And you have to keep a running continuity book with the photos, with every piece of wardrobe that they had. You have to know where all that wardrobe is. When a week from now, you have to go back to that scene, you can find it easily. Everything should be in a particular bag with that particular name of that character. And it should be, if you do it right and you stay organized, it's very easy, but it gets overlooked because it's very tedious. And a lot of people don't put that much detail.
I think a lot of people don't do it. As you know, on YouTube, they'll have like those videos of like, did you see this in this movie? And like this scene was that scene. And this one was looking that way and not this way. And they were talking to a random wall. Like, you know, people are so like in tune into that. So I'm like, oh, that set designer, they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
Right. Or
and it's funny.
Attention.
Yeah. It's funny because on Dope, you know, that was my first time doing it and understanding and learning it. But I obviously wasn't on set watching everything as it happened, but I understood what it meant. And we were in the movie theater. I was in the movie theater with my brother. And, you know, I was telling him, yeah, I learned continuity. He was like, okay, what's that? So I told him what it is. And in the first scene of the guy riding the bike, he's like, well, he had on a pair of yellow Jordans 5 minutes ago, and now he has on red Jordans. So what are you talking about with this continuity?
No,
that person didn't do their job right. They didn't do their job right.
I love that.
I was just like, it will never be me. when I'm costume designer, it will not go down like that. And I was just like, wow, that was a huge.
That's hilarious. And of course, it's family that pointed it out. Like,
Of course.
And on the first thing too.
Love that.
Your own family. It really be your own family. You're trying to be excited about something. He's like, yeah, but that's not right. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So yeah, it's very different. The worlds are very different, but I love it just the same. People always ask me, what do I love more? And I love the fact that I go back and forth between the worlds. I love that because the creativity on this side is very different from the creativity on that side.
Yeah, I think that is so great. And I feel like kind of going off of that, it's one thing to come into the game as a stylist, to come into the game as a costume designer, but it's another thing to have that level of longevity and continuity when it comes to being in this world. Like, and I think that's very applaudable. Like, how do you think you've been able to stay around and stay in your own way, in a sense, on top when it comes to being relevant in both sides of this fashion coin?
That is definitely not easy. And I definitely see that a lot of people who start in styling or costume design or something like that, it's not for everybody, right? So the uncertainty of it can be difficult for people because you don't know when your next job is going to come sometimes. I'm only for the past maybe 3 years have I been blessed to be in a position where I kind of knew where my jobs were coming and they were just coming more regularly where it was happening and I didn't foresee downtime. But for probably the first however many years, it wasn't like that. So can you imagine you worked a job and paid you whatever it paid you. Now that job is over and you don't know when you're going to work again? It's not for everybody. Everybody can't do this. It takes discipline. It takes a level of understanding that God has you when you don't know when your bills are going to be paid, because also with styling, a lot of times you don't get paid until maybe 3 months after a job is over. So people don't realize that either. It's not like a regular job. You don't do a job and get paid at the end of it. For the most part, you get paid 90 days later.
You gotta wait till the budget drops. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Quarter.
But I'm gonna tell you what I started doing, and this is a bit of advice I would give to anyone if you can make it happen. Is the most power you have with a job is in the beginning when they need you. Make them pay you up front. You have more power. Once you've done the job, you have no power. Your power is gone. So you can call them, email them every Monday on the dot, 9 a.m. They will ignore you until they feel like paying you. And styling is always paid last. But in the beginning, they need you. They do not have time to play around. The client wants you, make them pay you up front. And once I started doing that, everything changed.
Great advice. And I feel like that's
not just in styling,
to everything,
but anything.
And everything. Exactly. And that's why negotiations up front is so important, because that same situation, you in this job for 2 years, like, girl, we know what you got.
Right. You gotta know. You gotta know what's happening.
Wow.
Exactly.
So so you were one of 5 women recently featured in the BET Awards AT&T 5G Dream Team, baby. So you talked about contacts. Yeah, exactly. You talked about contacts, and I guess tell us just how that experience was for you and how you kind of got connected in that space to be highlighted in that way.
That was surreal. I will not lie. It was very surreal because, as you know, I am a stylist and I'm typically behind the scenes and I'm not really the one in the forefront. And I like it that way. It's fine. But again, there has been a calling. Signals and things have been happening that's telling me I need to be in the forefront. And I'm not saying that I pushed it away like I did with styling when it was calling, but I'm realizing and understanding. So with the BET thing, how it went down was one of the producers sent me a DM. And it was just like, BET, 5G, Dream Team, AT&T, blah, 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 self-tape, blah, 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 da, 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 da. So I read it and I ignored it because I thought that they were asking me to send in and submit myself on tape to be considered to be one of the 5. And it wasn't that I felt like I was above auditioning, but I'm just not great on camera. So I know if I sent that in, it wasn't going to work anyway. So I'm not doing that.
I mean, but you're good on camera, but that's a whole.
Oh no, this took a lot of practice. This took a lot of practice. It also, you have to understand, this is another tip. I'm gonna drop jewels throughout this whole thing. You have to understand your weaknesses and you have to understand when you need to get help with them. I hired a hosting coach. That's what I did because I'm not great on camera. So naturally, I might be energetic, this, whatever. But when you turn the camera on, I don't know what happens to me. It's just like all of a sudden I'm like, hi, I'm Ebony Brown, and I am a celebrity stylist. Like, who are you? That doesn't work. That doesn't work. They wanted you because they like the way your voice sounds. They like, the cadence and for which you speak. But then when you turn that camera on, it just goes someplace completely different. So it took me a while to sort of like understand that I had to, and it wasn't even a level of comfort. I just had to learn the hardest thing an actor will tell you is to play themselves. The hardest thing to do. So I had to learn how to be myself. So again, I wasn't going to submit a tape because I just felt like it wasn't going to work. I'm not doing it. So then that producer started following me. And I was like, okay. And then he sent me another DM like, hey, listen, we really want you for this. Can you meet? Can we send you an email? Can we set up a Zoom call with the producers? We want to give you more details about it. So I'm still thinking they want me to sort of audition. And I was like, okay, since he's contacted me again, let me not ignore it. Okay, great. Send me what you need to send me. He sent an email. We set up the Zoom call. And on the Zoom call, it was revealed that I was already chosen. And I'm like, wait, what? How? Okay, good. And as accomplished as you might be, when you're in it, you don't see it the same way other people see it. I'm busy doing the work. I'm not busy looking at like, oh, look at me, I'm the shit. I'm this. I'm not. That's not who I am. I don't do that unless I need to flex on somebody. But for the most part, that's not what I do. I'm doing the work. I'm in the trenches. So I don't see what the outside world sees at some point. So when they told me I was already selected, I was just like, wow, I felt amazing. And interesting fact, another jewel I'm going to drop, do not burn bridges in these industries, because how I got the job is someone that I knew back when I was a writer who works at BET. So when we had the Zoom, she popped in and I'm like, I haven't seen her or spoken to her in probably 5 years. I have not seen her or spoken to her in at least 5 years. But when this came about, she said she had gone on my website, she had been looking at my social media pages, and she realized what I was doing and how much I had done and how much I had accomplished in this space. And when this opportunity came up, she told them, we're using her. I was floored. And then so I'm gonna drop another jewel. Make sure your social media page reflects who you are and what you are doing. I cannot tell you enough how people will look at your Instagram, your face. Regular jobs do it all the time. This is your walking and your digital sort of resume. You cannot have BS. You can't be, you cannot. You just can, you clean it up, people. Clean up your social pages. If you want something where you want to do something crazy, go get an OnlyFans and do it there. Keep it off of your resume. You don't need to, when I have a resume, I don't put that I get drunk in the club and I'm twerking. I'm not putting that on my resume. Your social media page is your resume. Treat it as such.
That is like
great advice. And people need to know.
But it's so true, because I know for a figgity fact that one of my previous jobs, just knowing my manager, like she Googled everyone and did on their Instagrams immediately. So I already knew that, like, when I came into the space of like actually having the job, that she already had looked at my page, So sure, if it looked crazy, she would have been like,
before it even happened.
Absolutely. And also, people need to go back on their Twitter. Like, now with cancel culture, I literally spent a weekend and I went through my very first tweet and I deleted I didn't have anything. The thing with cancel culture, I always say, people say you shouldn't tweet horrible things. And it's not that you shouldn't tweet it, you shouldn't think it. You shouldn't have those thoughts. You can't have that intention and expect it to not come out at some point, right? But just for the sake of cleaning house, I went back and it wasn't anything bad for me. It was just, I deleted anything that just didn't align with how I wanted to present to the world. You know, if I'm just talking about some silly food that I had, no, I took it off. I deleted
song lyrics about that boy that broke your heart or something. Like, I need to go back and
delete any drunk tweets, delete them. Drunk tweets after a breakup, I deleted all of them. I'm like, this doesn't need to be here anymore. No longer subtweeting anybody. Take it off, but clean it up. So that's how the BT thing came to be. I was very excited. It also made me realize, you know, keep your friendships and your relationships clean. Try not to burn bridges. I mean, listen, if someone does you wrong, there's a way you can handle it. And the power of just saying Godspeed. There's so much power in that. And I'm at this point in my life where I will okay a person to death. Okay. I wasn't always like this. That was a learned skill. But at this point, it's just okay and Godspeed. Oh, wait, why? Because you don't do that, Ebony?
We're not going to start this conversation.
Are you still learning? Are you still in the cuss?
I'm in the learning.
Are you in the cuss you out phase?
I'm actually still learning.
I'm not. We're not
cussing people out.
We're not cussing people out, but we're also maybe not like.
I'm more on the lens of, I hope you have the life you deserve.
Exactly.
That's just what it is.
No, I mean, I think we're both kind of on that energy because it's like, to be honest, for me, I'm not a confrontation. I don't care to be confrontational because it doesn't matter to me that much. So it's like, if you have an issue, then okay, like it's fine. Like it doesn't, you know, unless you're my best friend, I don't want you to have hurt feelings. Yeah. But at the same time, like, I don't care as much as you care. So I'm not even going to partake. Like, that's kind of me.
Great vibration.
Same.
I just want to make sure that we touch on too, because I mean, we could talk about you and what you've been doing all day. Honestly, it's so great.
You've done a ton
of great things.
Are we doing wearable?
But I want to talk about, oh, that's cute. But like, I was just curious, one thing within the BT experience with the Dream Team, you mentioned contracts, and we were talking about that earlier. I just want to make sure that we talk about the fact that, like, how are you looking out when it comes to contracts now, like, especially with these bigger gigs that you're doing? One thing for certain, and you don't have to go through the specific contracts of what you're doing now, but like, for instance, we know that you're working with Tina Knowles and you've been on that radar when it comes to her wearable art gala. So for one-off events like that, or for your stylist gigs or your costume designer experiences, like contracts and making sure that you as a freelancer, you as your own brand and business are protected. Like, what can you share with the people?
I think that everyone needs to have what's called a deal memo. And that's what we do before we start any job. You have a deal memo, and it really just lays out what you expect from the client and what the client expects from you. So there's no gray area. People understand what they're getting into. You understand how much you're being paid. You understand the full budget. Everything is just laid out, and both parties have to sign it. And that is your contract. So for example, if someone just decides at some point they don't want to pay you, you can kind of use that and go to court if you need to. So it's very important to protect yourself when it comes to work. It's not easy to protect your IP, your intellectual property. What I mean by that is, let's say you start with the new client and you completely create a fashion landscape for them. They didn't have one prior to you. That is technically your intellectual property, but that person could then fire you, go to another stylist, and just sort of carry on what you've already started. There's no way to protect your intellectual property. So that is something that I am trying to figure out if there's a way. I've been speaking to people about it over the years, and it's tough. It's heartbreaking because you can definitely put your whole work into something and then they've moved on and you don't necessarily get the credit that you deserve for it. But in terms of payment, definitely be upfront, understand, do not play around. Also, another tip I would give aspiring stylists, don't work for free. What I mean by that, I don't mean interning with other stylists. You should do that because that's how you learn. But if a celebrity comes to you and says, hey, I would love for you to style me, but don't really have a great budget right now. Wondering if you could do it for free. I can shout you out on Instagram, this and that and the third. And when we do get a budget, then we're going to pay you. No, say no. Because when they get a budget, they're going to hire someone like me who they can afford. Yes. They're not going to hire you. And it's happened to me before. I've seen it happen to so many people when they're first starting out. This is how I know to say absolutely no to that, because they do have money. They just don't want to pay you. Mm-hmm. Now, you do have to use discernment where it comes to this, because if it's someone who absolutely makes sense and can for sure further your career, for you to do it for free in exchange for social media presence on their page, for them tagging you, if someone like a Beyonce knows, okay, yeah, you do that. But it's not typically, ironically enough, it wouldn't be Beyonce who's asking you to do it for free.
Yeah, I don't see
you
that.
Get my point? It's usually someone who's not even close to that level who's asking you to do it for free, and so it won't benefit you anyway.
Right. They definitely have the money, because there's production, and there's, if they have a label, if it's a musician, then they have the label.
Well, honestly, the budgets are low right now. For the most part, people have to pay for their own styling. Yeah, it's very different. Like back in the day, you had huge budgets that came from the record label. With actors, I will tell you this: with actors, when they have movie premieres or television premieres, the studio will pay you. But it's not a lot. I mean, listen, let me just give you guys a little tidbit that people don't really understand. When you have an actor, I'm not talking someone who's Angela Bassett level. Let's just say someone who's starting out and just got a sitcom, but an actual sitcom. The studio will pay. I was styling an actor, and the studio paid $750 per look. That is it. And you needed to take your styling fee out of that $750. And also, the wardrobe needed to come out of that $750.
Where were you shopping? Forever 21? Like, listen, what the heck?
Catch me.
No, you call showrooms. You call showrooms and you get it done. You get it for free from showrooms. You pull from showrooms. But a lot of the cases, but mind you, that's high. A lot of the cases, you're only getting $500 per look for an actor when they're first starting out. Obviously, the money goes up when the actor becomes bigger in their career, but you still want to do a great job. So a lot of that fee, you're not even taking a stylist fee, because it doesn't pay a stylist fee anyway, really. You're using that shipping, because if you're calling showrooms that are in London and Paris, they'll ship it to you, but you need to ship it back. That's $200-300 to ship it back. So you're spending your money on that. But in those instances, it looks good to build your resume. So you're going to do whatever it takes to make sure the job is done. And then that also brings back to love and passion. If you don't love it, if you don't have a passion for it, that is essentially working for free in a way. When you think about it, when you really kind of do the math, you're not going to want to do that. You are not going to want to do that.
That's so. Yeah, I mean, the gems that you have shared, I think it's
a lot of them. Listen,
lots of them.
My course will not mince words. It's going to be called Fashionably Fearless, presents Celebrity Style Academy, and it's going to tell you the things that most stylists won't tell you. One thing that most stylists won't tell you, which is absolutely true, is most stylists are broke. Did you guys know that?
I did not.
Can we talk about it?
We should absolutely talk about it.
No, most stylists, it takes a while to get to the point in your career where you actually have money coming in. But you might, the first however many years, might not be that. Even when you have huge clients. And this is how, I'll break it down for you. I'll kind of just run it through real quick. Let's just say you have a client, and some cases they give you wardrobe budget up front. Some of the cases they don't. They expect you to put it on your credit card, however that works. And then you get reimbursed when you submit your invoice. One job I did in particular, I think I had spent like $6,000 of my own money to do the job. I had to invoice them to get my $6,000 back, plus the styling fee, but I didn't get it back for 3 months. So I'm out of like $15,000 at this point. And if you don't work for the next 2 months, you're just like, wait, what? Where's the money coming from? So there's a lot of that. You have to be very careful with the way you budget and spend your money. We also, as stylists, have to look amazing ourselves. So we have to have our wardrobe, but you can write all that off. It's more work. Write it all off. You have to have your wardrobe. You have to have everything amazing, and you will have lows. You can work every day for 3 months straight and not get booked for the next 2 months. So I don't care how amazing someone's styling resume might look on Instagram, how flashy it might look. Trust you when I tell you, every stylist goes through the same thing. And then you kind of might hit a point in your career where everything shifts, and that's not the case anymore. But there are plenty of years where you go through not knowing where your next gig is coming from, not knowing where you're going to get your money from, not knowing how your rent is going to be paid because you've got all these invoices out and you haven't been paid, and it's 30, 60 days past and you haven't worked in that amount of time. It can be tricky.
How do you keep yourself, I mean, obviously besides budgeting, as much as you can and saving, before you're doing your gigs and whatnot, I guess, how else are you keeping yourself, sustainable? Like, how are you sustaining kind of like your lifestyle? Or is it kind of just like the waiting game?
Prayer.
Prayer, yes.
Lots of prayer.
Do some people have like other jobs, meaning, I'm not saying that they're waitressing, but I'm just saying, like, is there any other jobs that maybe some stylists do have to kind of subsequent that, lull in the payment?
It's kind of tough for us. So for hairstylists who are maybe on a celebrity hairstyling or work on film and television, when they're not working, they have a salon to go to. For us, it's not like that because you can't get a job because you have to be available, right? So I don't know any stylist who has another job that's coming in to supplement the income when they are not getting booked. But there are other ways and other things that you can learn how to do that can keep you afloat. And one of them has nothing to do with fashion, but I've learned how to day trade. That's totally nothing to do with fashion. But I learned that in the pandemic. I'm just like, wait a minute, I need to learn how to make money from home. That was the best way to do it. Another thing that I do as well is I am an editor. So I write for various magazines. One of them I write for is called Boss Magazine, BAUCE. It is for women entrepreneurs. That keeps money on the table. I mean, at this point, I'm blessed to be in a position to where I'm not having to deal with that anymore. But there are so many other things you can do. You can write, you can do personal shopping. I have a partnership with Nordstrom, actually, where I can create a digital style board. You know how on Instagram, you'll see people have this whole look together, like they'll have a shirt, shoes, pants, hat, sunglasses, purse, and they always post it and it's like really cute. Well, I can actually get paid for mine because I have a partnership with Nordstrom. So I can create a style board for you and I can text that style board to you, and everything you buy from what I've chosen, I get a percentage as if I work in the store, although I don't have to work in the store. So there's so many other things that you can do. As an entrepreneur, you have to have 7 streams of income, as they say.
That's what they say. And I think throughout this entire thing, you've been showing how you've created your own lane and created opportunities for yourself. And so I just want to ask you, like, what does creating your own lane mean to you?
You know what? It just means having the guts and the courage to bet on yourself. No matter what people tell you, no matter how difficult people tell you it can be, you have to bet on yourself, and you have to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you will make it. Because here's the thing, any doubt that creeps up in your mind is all it takes to derail you completely. And you have to know your worth. You have to know that you can make this happen, and you have to do it. You have to just go for it. Listen, you take the shot. Take the shot. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Go for it. What is the worst that can happen? Nothing. You might actually make it. The only people who don't make it in the entertainment space are the ones who give up.
You know what?
Yes, that is it.
Watching a documentary this morning, and it was more about the cocaine trade, but besides the fact they said the same thing. So I was like, there we go. It works in everything. It works in it all.
That's so real though.
Oh my gosh, the cocaine trade. Yes. Listen, drug dealers have to be very smart. You cannot be a top level drug dealer if you're not smart and good at math. And an entrepreneur.
You know what else is very smart is
and top level.
Okay, is you guys watching the Black Creators Club. We work so hard every week, every single day, in fact, to continue to produce and make an amazing show. So please continue to support, watch, subscribe, like, comment, do it all. And in fact, you guys can go on our website and purchase the merch because it is let's move the cup. It is on the website.
It says you're welcome, sincerely a Black creator, because
I love that.
Black creators, we are the trend starters, the culture starters, all of that. And
it starts with us.
It starts with us.
It starts with us, and we definitely need to get our cred. So that's why we made our shirts, and that is kind of the stamp of the Black Creators Club. So you guys know where to follow us at the Black Creators Club on Instagram. The email is theblackcreatorsclub@gmail.com. You guys can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
I love it.
We're literally everywhere you need to be.
All the things. Let's jump into our game, okay? So
yes.
We call it Dressed for the Gods, all right? As a stylist, as a costume designer, a lot of folks live for that moment when they get to work with A-list celebrities. You've done that, check. But we're gonna pick, celebrities, and it's up to you to decide who from the two. We're gonna give you two options. Who from the two you'd rather style, and what outfit you would choose for them. And obviously, this is a game. If both celebrities came to your doorstep, y'all know Ebony is about to make it work. But for the purpose of the game, just choose one and style. So the first one, Brandy or Monica?
Brandy or Monica? Well, I've met Brandy before. She's really sweet. Her style is very hippie chic. She's that. She's not going to give you trends. She's not really into all the trends and the fashion and things like that. Monica, she slays. Monica is into it. So I think if I were having to choose, although I love Brandy's hippie chic style and it so works for her, I think I'd go with Monica because Monica takes more fashion risks. And what I would do is, I'm big into upcycling right now. So basically what that means is you take something that you own, like I'll take a raincoat and then I'll deconstruct it. I'll cut it and make it a crop coat, cut the sleeves, make it shorter, make the bottom half of it a skirt or pants or whatever, make a mask with the rest of it, the fabric you have left over. I'm big on that. So I would do some amazing upcycling pieces with vintage designer. Like if we can get some vintage like MCM monogram stuff, upcycle that and just turn it into something fierce. I would lay her out. Yeah.
Okay. You had me at the upcycled raincoat. Like I want that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. Just a little tidbit while you said that, while I was feeling the energy, I was like, you know what? School is one thing. Professional training is one thing, but when someone just has the niche, the style, the eye, there's just nothing you can do to touch it. Because what I'm saying, like you were like, I want music, and now just the idea that you could be like, I'm gonna take this raincoat, make it a crop jacket, make it a mask, like what? That is like literally that's a vision.
MCM too, and I'm like, yes, that would kill.
That's a vision. It's a vision. It's not just, I'm trying to make something happen for myself. It's a gift. It's a vision.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh my God. Thank you, ladies.
Sure.
And it comes so naturally for me. I don't even realize how you say it's a gift. I don't even necessarily look at it like that because it's just a part of, I eat, sleep, and breathe fashion. It just comes so honestly and just natural for me.
Isn't it crazy? And that's why I think it sometimes takes a while for folks, because you think like, wait, you can't do this? Or y'all can't do it? You recognize like, oh no, this is like really
people
a talent.
Really can't dress.
It's really
people
a talent.
Really cannot dress. And that's really what it is. And I'm like, no, you're not wearing this itty bitty too tight thing and you got everything hanging out. What is going on? Call Ebony immediately.
Exactly.
Call her immediately. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We go put your number. We gonna put something at the bottom so they know where to find you. Okay. The next group of celebrities, it's SZA versus Summer Walker.
Okay. That's interesting. I feel like, I kind of want to say both, but that's a tough one. That's a tough one because I like them both. I like that SZA wears clothes. She always has on pants. I love that for her. I love that she's sort of giving you vintage Aaliyah, baggy pants with a bra, something tight on top. I love that. Summer Walker, I think I would go with Summer Walker because she doesn't have a defined style yet. I just broke down SZA's style. Hers is very defined and carved out. I can't say the same or speak to the same when it comes to Summer Walker. So I would literally speak with her, sit down, understand. When I'm styling a musician, I listen to every song that I can, understand what they're feeling, what emotions are behind it. And then I use that as a sounding board for creating their style story. So I would start there and I would really just have conversations with her and create a new style story for her, something that maybe try to get her out of her comfort zone. I don't know exactly what pieces I would put her in at this moment, but I know we would be interested, and I would be interested in trying to get her to take more risks and just do something different and not sort of look like she doesn't look like everyone else because she has her own unique style. I love all the tats on her face. I love all that, just anything that's different and unique, and she has that. So I would really play on her different and uniqueness and run. We would take the ball and run with it, and we would keep it different and unique.
I love that. And I like that you took an opportunity to take someone who has that more undefined style because it gives you not free range, but at least an opportunity to, no, it's opportunity. Like, for example, if Mariah came knocking on my door today, I would not say no. Hello, it's Mariah. But I couldn't do anything amazingly different with Mariah. It's Mariah. But you never know because look at Celine Dion. Look how she just showed up and changed it all when she started working with Law Roach. I mean, I never thought I'd see the day when Celine was in designers. I mean, she's always worn designers, don't get me wrong, but it's always been beaded ball gowns, you know. Yes. I will go on, okay?
Switch it off. So yeah, I would love it if I can change someone's style. I want to really just kind of create something new and different.
Yeah.
And we love Law.
We love that.
I love Law Roach. I love him.
Yeah, same.
Yes. Okay, so this one is, a tale of two queens, really. So is it going to be Beyonce or Rihanna? Which one are you going to style?
Rihanna. It depends. That's not it. Listen, don't fight me. We love B, but Rihanna is that's just a whole nother world when it comes to fashion. And speaking of intellectual property and IP, my fashion mother, my mentor, Lisa Cooper, huge stylist, she is the one who created Rihanna's style. She took Rihanna from island girl with the middle part, long wavy weave, to having her cut her hair, change her wardrobe. And she really, like when you look back in the early days, you'll see pictures of them together. They were always together for like the first, maybe 3 or 4 years. And that's really what cemented Rihanna as a fashion icon. So I would absolutely take Rihanna any day.
Love that behind the scenes, like kind of history of it all.
Oh yeah.
We all recognize the change. And I'm like, yes.
Oh yeah.
On bad.
Umbrella. It started with Umbrella.
Right. And that like best thing that she had going on in the video.
And cutting her hair.
The haircut was just everything.
Everyone had their haircut.
But honestly, I just felt like it was perfect timing because it was like right after the Chris Brown thing, and Chris Brown went bad, and then she went bad, and it was all just.
No. This was before Chris Brown.
This
was before.
Okay, it was. It lasted a while. It lasted a while for sure.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Rihanna kills it. She definitely kills the game every single time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I love to see kind of celebrities like their evolution into
Me
fashion.
too.
Like. Kim Kardashian is another one that like all the way to the left. Like she could change so many times through the years. And I love to see the evolution.
I love it.
Me too. Cardi B, I think, is another one that now is starting. Yeah. I wonder.
Cardi gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Cardi gets it. She understands. The celebrities who get it understand how huge fashion is in your career. Mm-hmm. It is a huge part of your career. Listen, let's be honest. No one's being recognized that much because their hairstyle is great. Yeah. We'll understand that you've cut your hair and it's amazing, but you're not getting written up because of your hair. Not that much. It's your fashion. The fashion is another part of your whole team that people who aren't really into it, they might overlook because it can be expensive. It's not cheap to keep up with the fashion. And obviously you can go to showrooms and call designers directly, but a lot of the stuff you might have to purchase. So, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to be photographed. A lot of those photographs you see are staged. They're not real photographs of someone going to a meeting or doing this. They plan a day, they have a photographer, they do this, make it look like they're going into a meeting. They look like they're walking across the street. They make it look like it's a paparazzi photo. It's a lot of it's staged, but you need to do that. And I've noticed with some people, it's quite interesting because the people who have the most talent, not necessarily the most popular, the most talent, don't feed into that. Yeah. They don't feel like doing it. They don't want to. Their talent is, they ride on their talent, period. People who don't have the same level of talent, they compensate with that. And that's what gives them more of the popularity every single time. Every single time.
I mean, Kim definitely said that too. She was like, "Oh, we would go hang out where the paparazzi were." Like, she knew what was up.
Yeah, that's the OG bloggers did this.
You already know. Yeah, before Instagram was a thing, there was
paparazzi. There was paparazzi.
Okay, so your next group of celebrities, we're gonna bring it over to the men a little bit. Will Smith or Denzel Washington?
I mean, Denzel. He's the most gorgeous man in the world, so it's just to be next to him. And Denzel can wear a suit, baby. Denzel can wear a suit. I would just put him in amazing, tailored suits from Black designers, from Black men. I would keep it there.
He has gained a little weight now. It
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You need that pillow. I need a pillow. I don't like skinny men. I need something to lay on. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Period. All right, let's take it to Ashanti versus Keisha Cole.
Ashanti, Keisha Cole. I mean, listen, Ashanti and that body is just next level. It's next level. So I think I'd pick Ashanti because I see that she is definitely, like, over the past few years, we've seen her a lot more. We've seen her come back into the limelight a lot more. So it seems like she might be understanding how important fashion is to her reemerging and reintroducing herself. So if she's ready to reintroduce herself, like a good Celine Dion moment, I would love, 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 love to do a complete overhaul. I would take her out of the naked dresses. I'm so tired of naked dresses. Listen, we know you got body. We can see it. It's the difference between being sexy and just wearing the naked dress. The naked dress, ladies, we are done with it. We don't need to see it anymore. You can look amazing without doing that. Not to say that you can't show your body, because you can show your body, but I feel like it's the same silhouette. You know what I mean? The same silhouette over and over again. So I would kind of go away from that and just elevate her fashion. I would put her in high-end designers. I don't think I see her in high-end labels. I would go that route with her, like super high. I mean, and I'm not talking Gucci. I'm talking about high.
Oh, okay.
The price went up. That's what I heard. The price went up.
Yes.
Honey, what did Fat Joe say? Yes, the price it was yesterday is not the price today.
That's it. All right. We got to end it up with our faves.
Okay. So we already know. We'll see what you say. But last group is Faith Evans or Biggie Smalls.
How dare you do that to me? Why would you do that to me? Well, they're the same person because they were married. So. And then if your husband dies while you're married, then that's technically still your husband. So I would do both of them.
All right, we'll let you have that one. We'll let you have that one.
Exactly.
This was so fun, Ebony. Let our listeners know where they can find you, where they could sign up for your upcoming course and the like.
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at Ebony Brown Style. I will release information about the course. I think we're going to start pre-selling in December. So you will catch it there on my Instagram page. My website is ebonybrownstyle.com. You can see everything there. And listen, chat me up, send me DMs. I really love when the people send me DMs and ask me questions. I'm here to help. So send them my way. I look forward to having everyone show up for my course. I look forward to sharing the knowledge that I have and, making a space for young artists to join into the styling world and not have it be so intimidating. It's been so difficult for a lot of people because it's very tight knit, like just closed off. If you don't know a person, you can't get in it. So I kind of want to change that. I think fashion is for everybody, and there's space for everybody, and we can all do it if we do it together. And that's what I'm about.
I love that. Fashion is for everybody. Okay. So you can find me chatting media and life motivation, all with a dash of style at Aquila Friend. Where can they find you?
Well, first, I hope y'all can find me in Ebony's repertoire of
yes.
When I get a little bit of money, Ebony, I'm calling you for sure. 1,000%.
Yes.
Love that.
I love a good fashion, a good fit. I want to take more fashion risks, but it's expensive and it's a lot, so I just be keeping it simple. But 1,000%, I'm calling you. But you guys can find me on Instagram chatting everything Black-owned business, and of course the Black Creators Club at Ebony Chapman 12.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us today, and remember to always abide by your ABCs.
Always be creating.
Oh, I love it.
Yes. Done and done.